Best Darn Diddly now has a new home. You can find us at bestdarndiddly.com. You can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts. So head over to bestdarndiddly.com and subscribe right now so you don't miss a single episode of the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as MrMostDaysOff, and today we are moving into December of 1992 with the episode Lisa's First Word. But as always, joining me, your co-host with the most, Richie theWizKid. How are you today, Rich?
As usual, I am fine and dandy like sour candy. This episode today is like an early Christmas present for 1992, isn't it?
It's interesting. One thing I want to note right about that date is when I was watching the director's commentary, actually Matt Groening announced that this episode debuted exactly 4 years to the day behind the premiere episode, Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire. However, I think he may have been mistaken, because everything that I have found shows that this episode actually debuted December 3rd, 1992. The next episode we're going to be getting to, Homer's Triple Bypass, is the 4-year anniversary.
Yeah, my guidebook says December 3rd for this one, and if you listen to my flipping of pages, Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire I have as the 17th of December. So, yeah, that's Homer's Triple Bypass. Matt Groening, where are you at, bro? But, alas, we are getting ahead of ourselves. Miles, I have not yet thrown it back to you, so I will go ahead and do that. He is the man, he is the myth, he is Miss Pac-Man, striking a blow for women's rights. It's MrMostDaysOff.
I am the face of feminism, thank you very much.
It's an ugly face, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow. Alright, well, we are talking about Lisa's First Word today, which, as we already established, debuted on December 3rd, 1992. The chalk gag for this episode had Bart writing, "The teacher is not a leper." And the couch gag is one of the all-time best, and actually it's Matt Groening's personal favorite, despite the fact that it's a surefire sign that they went short on the episode. It is an extended edition of the Rockette/Circus couch gag, where you actually see the Simpsons doing the famous Rockettes kick with a full-blown circus going on in the background.
Honestly, this is one of my least favorite couch gags.
I loved it the first time I've seen it, and I think it's really iconic, but yeah, it goes on a while.
And you've seen it so many times at this point that it's like a car commercial where you just kind of tune it out when you see it.
Yeah, but to be honest, I haven't seen it in quite a while, so it was kind of refreshing to see again. It's been a while since I've watched this couch gag. A lot of times when you watch The Simpsons in syndication, if they have this gag, it's cut much shorter.
Yeah, but don't they reuse this one a lot too? I feel like this is in multiple episodes.
Well, like I mentioned, this is actually one that they go to whenever they're short on time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one you'll definitely see more and more. I think they even, and we'll get there here in a few weeks and find out if I'm remembering correctly, but I think they do an even longer version during the clip show.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to bring up. Anyways,
yeah, we're still a few weeks away from the. We're still a few weeks from the clip show, but it's coming quickly.
Are we gonna have a clip show?
That's a lot of editing. We'll talk about it. This episode opens up with the Simpsons family trying to get Maggie to say her first word. They're saying things like Baba, Mama, and get bent. I wonder which Simpsons family member said that.
Hey, Mr. Rogers says it all the time.
They also say Daddy, Kitty, Lisa, and shove it. Right about then, Maggie's lips start to quiver as if she's about to say something, and she does. It's burlap. Or maybe it was just a burp. Marge is getting worried because, of course, according to Fretful Mother magazine, if a baby hasn't started talking within her first year, it's a good idea to buy it a tongue extender. My God, Marge, put that shit away.
At 1 year?
At 1 year.
I thought it was ridiculous that Bart talks so much in this episode when he's like around the age of 2.
Dude, have you been around a 2-year-old lately? They should talk more than I do.
That's pushing your boundaries there, I think.
No, it's legit. 2-year-olds give me a run for my money when it's about seeing who can garner the most attention on themselves.
I'm just picturing you in competition with a 2-year-old.
Well, hey, Bart stole that I am so great thing from me. Just saying.
If you say so. I think the Simpsons did it.
Next up, I absolutely love this little interaction. Lisa says a famous quote that is I've heard many times before. I'm not sure who said it. It's better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. Just then we get an interaction that we love so much between Homer and his own brain saying, "Oh God, what does that mean?"
What does that mean? Better say something or they'll think you're stupid. Takes one to know one. Swish!
I love that. Takes one to know one, like he just won the conversation.
Yeah. I just love like the echoiness of Homer's brain. So you know that he's talking in his own head and his brain going swish.
All of this baby's first word talk gets Bart to thinking, hey, what was my first word? We see a quick flashback where Homer and Marge are remembering when they were fooling around and Bart walked in and said, "Ay caramba!" But Marge decides that she better just say, "I can't remember," but Lisa's first word was a really cute story. So Marge starts our tale that will carry throughout the episode all the way back into the spring of 1983, when Miss Pac-Man just took a major swing for women's rights. And Joe Piscopo was the top of the comedy charts, and I believe he was on SNL at the time, if I'm not mistaken. There are a lot of 1983 jokes in this episode. Admittedly, since Richie and I were born in 85, some of these may have gone over our head.
Well, some of them go into 1984, because 1983 was before Lisa is born, so it's a year later. So a lot of the episodes in 1984 as well. So we're pushing the boundaries from 1983 to 1984 in this episode.
Even though it looks a lot more like the 1940s on the street, with the kids wanting to play stickball until they run into the arcade and they actually play arcade stickball, which I thought was a great gag.
But Kick the Can was 2 arcade machines down. Is that out of style already?
That was probably being occupied by Grandpa and Jasper. We see a stoop on an apartment building where Marge is talking with some other women about how awesome the finale of MASH was. And just then we see Homer walking down the street singing to himself, "When a workday's done, girls just wanna have fun. Oh, girls just wanna have fun."
Homer.
That's right. This sets up a great gag that runs throughout the entire rest of the episode, where Bart refuses to call Homer Daddy. He calls him Homer, and even right early on when Homer asks to be called Daddy, Bart starts to go, "Duh, duh, duh, Domer."
He's
such a shit, but he's the best.
I will say, though, he ran up to Homer at this part, so it proves that he loves his dad a little bit.
I don't think there's any doubt that there's not a love between Homer and Bart. I just think it's a very, very different way they express their fondness of each other than, say, Homer and Lisa.
Homer expresses his love by strangling his 1.5-year-old.
Yeah, I don't see the issue. In the commentary, they actually talked about that whenever they did the episode where Bart was born, they had a joke where Homer started to look like he might choke out Bart, but they decided against choking an infant on screen. However, they don't have any recollection of having any hesitance at all of having Homer choke out Bart here.
Oh, that's fantastic.
As you mentioned, Bart is an absolute terror, and one of the first things we see in this little montage scene when it's establishing just the 3 of the Simpsons in this apartment, Homer's napping on the floor after presumably a long day of work, and Bart climbs the TV cabinet and does a swan dive into Homer's belly, or hopefully belly. It may have been lower, based on the reaction that Homer makes.
I'm not gonna lie, like, this didn't really push the boundaries for me. I used to do stuff like this with my dad. Probably even my mom, too, all the time. You don't think about what you're doing to the other person at all, or you just, like, jump on them or something while they're asleep.
Well, I think, too, it's, to some extent, kids transitioning from being babies where they're used to literally just being like flung into people's arms and kind of, passed from adult to adult. So they don't really grasp the fact of how much they're growing and at which point they can actually start hurting you. Because, yeah, I've got the nephews, and when they get to be, a certain size, it hurts when they surprise attack. Like, I can still, pick them up and throw them around, but when they, like, jump on the back by surprise, it's like, damn it, there goes that for the week.
Maybe Bart was getting ready for the Olympics, which are going to be happening in the next summer.
True.
Not in real life, in the B storyline we're talking here.
Right. It's not the 84 Olympics anytime soon in real life. I also love in the montage the scene where the family's eating spaghetti, and at first it shows Bart just being an absolute mess, basically wearing his food and slurping his spaghetti noodles, and it pans out and you see Homer doing the exact same thing.
Yep, it's another great moment where they are reflective of each other.
And then to wrap up the montage, we get that iconic scene that everyone's seen with baby Bart swinging around in circles on the clothesline over the busy street. A couple of fun things about that little scene. One, it was the inspiration for one of the levels in the virtual Bart video game that you and I have talked about quite a bit on this show. But if you recall, one of the mini games that you had to play, you actually played as baby Bart and you were running around on clotheslines. I can't remember exactly what your purpose was in that one. You're either trying to get back home or get somewhere or chase an ice cream truck or wherever you were trying to get, but you were baby Bart and you used clotheslines to traverse the environment.
And it was a hell of a level.
It was tough. That was not an easy level. Also, they do a transition scene where they go from day to night, and you may have noticed that it looked a little bit weird. And that's because the second scene they used was originally shot in daytime, and they decided they wanted to do the night transition late, so they just kind of put a filter over it and did the best they could to make it look like evening, which it looked alright, but it was a little bit off.
Huh. That must be a little director's commentary right there.
That was from the director's commentary, you are correct. We also see from the crib, Marge falls asleep telling Bart a baby story. So we see baby Bart watching Johnny Carson from the crib, which I love this idea, and I think it's just a fun thing to think about. Bart watching stand-up comedy or nighttime comedy from such a young age, and how that could have formed his mischievous behavior in a lot of ways, as we see later on in the series.
Well, and Johnny Carson's a good way to go if you're going to watch late night TV, right? Although we're talking about scraping barnacles off your testicle or off your penis. But,
Boy George, yeah, taking care of his undercarriage.
And you can see Bart reacting to it as a baby as well, or as an infant.
Yeah, he actually is laughing at the jokes.
Yeah. Although at that age, he could be laughing because the audience is laughing. You never know for sure. But it looks like he understood what was going on.
I felt like we were supposed to think that Bart got it.
Yeah. And then we get the iconic scene that I remember seeing on the WB and later the CW when it always advertised this episode was going to play. And they would do this along with what you just spoke about with Bart swinging around on the clothesline, which is the whole bit where everyone will remember Homer goes, "Got your nose," and Bart goes, "Got your wallet," and flushes it down the toilet. That when they used to advertise for The Simpsons, that's the clip they would play for this episode all the time, and it would replay 15 times throughout the day, but you laughed every time you saw it.
I actually don't remember that, but I would probably choose that moment as well to advertise this episode. While this is going on, Marge walks in the room and announces that their home is about to have twice as much love as it does now. This excites Homer because he thinks that means they're going to start doing it in the morning. But of course, Marge means that she is in fact pregnant. Homer's happy at first, but it's interrupted when we see Bart grab his keys, and he goes and flushes them down the toilet along with his wallet.
The whole thing I like about this apartment scene from the first part of the episode is, you said it reminds you of the 1940s. It reminded me of the same time period, but in Brooklyn or or Boston maybe.
It was definitely a big city feel, and it's not until later when they move out to the suburbs. It's kind of a fun little history of The Simpsons, even though it doesn't really make a lot of sense when we think about the way we was, but maybe they moved out to the city afterwards. I guess it could work.
They probably weren't planning on having kids. Oh, wait, they were pregnant before they got married.
Yeah.
I can't quite figure that one out either, but that's okay.
They probably just, that was the only place they could afford, and they obviously don't want to live in Abe's house. That place was gross.
What I want to point out is, after Marge mentions that she's pregnant, we get Bart seeing all these ideas of what he can do with the sibling, and he's not even 2 yet, and he's planning all these terribly evil things. Like, his brain is developing so fast, which can tie into the fact that, Lisa's super smart, and Homer's super smart, so maybe this is something that runs through the family, and it's just, if they would have focused Bart a little bit more, given him a little bit more proper...
Used his powers for good instead of evil?
yeah, like, if they could have fine-tuned him a little bit more, he could have been super smart as well.
Well, I mean, the things he's fantasizing about aren't that terrible. He's planning on drawing on the walls and then blaming it on the baby. He's planning on using the baby as a bike ramp. Okay, that one might not be so great. But lastly, he's just going to use her diaper to clean up some spilt milk. I feel like that's just being smart for the environment. Reduce, reuse, recycle. That's the good way to reuse a diaper.
But when Marge finds Lisa with the diaper soaked up, she's gonna think she wet herself.
So she gets a free change. Babies love being changed. I feel like it's a win-win all around.
Again, though, for like a 1.5-year-old planning all these things, that's pretty evil, I think. If that's the beginning of Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees right there.
I feel like that's a little dark. I mean, even Michael Myers was killing stabbing somebody as a child in the Halloween series. So
maybe he was trying to control animals at a young age. I don't know.
No, maybe. All of this ruckus gets Marge to thinking that they are going to need a bigger place when the baby comes. But Homer says, no, I've got it all figured out. The baby's going to get Bart's crib, and Bart's going to sleep with us until he's 21. Marge is a little bit concerned that that'll warp him, but Homer reasserts him, it works for my cousin Frank, didn't it? Marge is like, you don't have a cousin Frank. Oh, well, he became Francine in 76. Then he joined that cult. I think he's called Mother Shabooboo now.
All's well that ends well.
Marge is not impressed, and the very next scene we see, we are at a real estate office.
Stinking Fish Real Estate, right? Or
Stinking Fish, yeah, the Stinking Fish Realty, because with a name that bad, they must be good.
I guess that works.
Before they meet with the agent, they drop Bart off at Patty and Selma's, and Patty and Selma absolutely adore Bart. They give him $1 just to sing I'm a Little Teapot, and he does a little medley with Teapot and the Itsy Bitsy Spider, which they could not be more into.
Aww.
Very, very sweet moment with Bart and his aunts. I'm sure that won't be crushed in any way throughout the rest of this episode.
I agree.
The Simpsons are being shown the only houses available in their price range. It happens to be in the neighborhood colorfully referred to as the Rat's Nest.
I just love that when they're inside the Rat's Nest house, that you can see the outline of a murdered person. It's like, this just became available, or this just came on the market.
And then Marge looks over the shoulder and she sees on the wall, I'll be back, written in blood.
My mom always tells a story about the house that I was born in and my mom and dad lived in, where she decided that we had to move out one day when they went on the front lawn and there was a hypodermic needle in the lawn.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and she kind of had that Marge moment where she's like, time to get the fuck out. I think if I remember correctly, I think she said my dad was like, oh, that's no issue. Don't like. My dad was less concerned than she was about it. So
it's just drugs. It's not like a gun or anything.
It could have been an insulin needle. Who knows? Maybe they knew I was going to be diabetic one day.
Yeah, it was somebody just donating something to you. Exactly. It's like basically a housewarming or baby shower gift.
It kind of makes you think of Neighbors when they find the condom in the baby's mouth in the front yard.
That movie, it's actually a really funny movie. I think that one got slept on a little bit. Just I don't know. Maybe it did better than I realized, but it seemed like not a lot of people saw it, and I thought it was really funny. Second one was pretty good too.
I'm Batman.
The next home they're taken to, the real estate agent is covering his mouth and nose the entire time, and Marge finally asks, "What is that smell?" He opens the window and we see the fat rendering plant. Of course, he says, once you get used to the smell, you won't be able to live without it. Homer's just like, hog fat.
I love the gag here, too, when it switches to inside the plant, and the two guys working that are, like, stirring the vat, basically. Like, what's that smell? He's like, I don't know. It's awful. And it pans out.
His
Homer's
BO
watching
can
him through a
penetrate
glass
through
window.
the door in a rendering factory. That's impressive. Next up, we see the Sea Captain in his third appearance in as many episodes since he's been introduced.
Yeah. They are really pushing him, aren't they?
He's been in every episode since he was introduced in New Kid on the Block. They really dig this character. There's a funny moment in the commentary on this one when they were making fun of Matt Groening, because at one point Matt Groening was doing an interview talking about all the side characters. And when the Sea Captain came up, all Matt Groening had to say was, yeah, I don't really know where he came from.
Well, sometimes that's the best way to do it, right?
It works. I love the whole bit, the Jaws reference, where he's actually trying to sell him a houseboat, because it's way better than a just house. But a shark comes up and eats him, or it starts biting him right off of the boat deck. He tells him it's fine, and the Simpsons should go have a look in the galley, where it's real shag carpeting.
Ooh.
There's also a great bit where the Simpsons go and look at a house that is overrun with cats. They decide that it won't be so bad once they get the cats out of the way, but unfortunately they were misunderstanding the agreement. The house was actually left to the cats in the will. The Simpsons would be the cats' tenants.
Is this the crazy cat lady's house, maybe? Like, she hasn't been introduced yet, and she won't be for years, but...
Even though she looks oddly similar to the Flanders grandmother, doesn't she?
Yeah, kind of, I guess. I want to point out here that this scene and the line that follows after the scene when they come back to the present reinstates the Bart as a Beastmaster thing here. Because when they come back after they're talking about the cat house, and Lisa's like, I wish we would have stayed and lived with the cats, and Bart says...
The kitty house.
Yeah, the kitty house. Bart says that he could train the cats to be his unholy army of the night. He just admitted that he can control animals, people, okay? Like, I think
he said he could train them. That doesn't mean he can control them. You can be a proficient trainer. I'm just saying.
This puts validity into my statement from weeks and weeks ago.
My dog can give me a high five, roll over, and bark on command, and I don't consider myself a
But could you train him to be your unholy army of the night? I don't think so.
Have you met Nash? I absolutely could.
He'd run away.
Now he would just be too cuddly to be evil. But yeah, I see your point. It's I still think your Beastmaster Bart theory was pretty much demolished in the Boy Who Cried Wolf episode, unfortunately. But maybe he'll bounce back. I'll still keep my mind open.
He's young, and the wolf is a higher
level. He's the same age in every episode we're going to watch of this entire series.
Except for the one we're literally reviewing right now. I'm just saying the wolf is older than him and higher level than him, and sometimes it takes training. Any Pokemon master knows that when you're battling a higher level one and you don't have enough badges, you can't control them yet until you get more badges. Things take time.
I have never played Pokemon.
Did you play Pokemon Go for like a day?
I did. I more like a couple hours while I was waiting on my car to be repaired, and I kind of got the appeal, and then I was like, yeah, this is getting old.
Actually, I did the same thing with that app.
Some people still play it, man. I was actually really shocked to find out. Shout out to Toby and Kristen from the Secret Transmission podcast. Those fuckers still play Pokemon Go. Can't believe it.
Dude, one of my managers at work who's like 50-something said his family's going to Chicago, and part of the reason they plan the trip is because there's like some kind of convention going on where like rare Pokemon will be there for everybody to catch. And I remember he laughed at me when I told him that I had downloaded it for like one day. He was like, oh, that's stupid. I don't get the appeal of it. And he came back a week later going like, oh, I'm already level 27. And I was like, that means you have been playing nonstop. And I was just like, yeah, I see how it is.
Video games are addicting. We all have our own thing. It's cool. I don't like hate Pokemon. I just, I don't get it, to be honest. But it's cool. Enjoy.
Go outside. Walk around.
You know, that's actually not a terrible aspect of it. In terms of for a video game, it does at least, like urge people to get a little bit of exercise. And frankly, I've seen some very socially awkward people able to connect with other socially awkward people and become what seems like friends or at least co-hunters out in the real public world. So good for them.
Don't call me Frankly.
All right, Francine.
Francine!
Or is it Mother Shabubu now?
We can go with either or. I was going the American Dad route there myself.
Oh, gotcha.
I tried to do my best stand, but I don't think it came across. I could do a hell of a Hank Hill, though. Damn it, Bobby. The boy ain't right.
Well, clearly we picked the wrong show to have a podcast for.
Damn straight. Oh, wait, no, we're good. Let's get back to The Simpsons.
The Simpsons!
What?
Who? See the next house on the lineup to visit is the iconic Simpsons home that we all know and love. And Marge and Homer love it. Homer can even envision everything he needs in that home, which is a couch and a television sitting on a box.
Yeah, go Homer.
That dream quickly vanishes, quite literally, in Homer's mind, when they're told what the cost of the house will be. And that's when we see a very sweet moment between Homer and his father. He goes to visit Abe at his home. He tells him that he's having problems.
Homer and Abe are talking, and he has that moment where Homer wants to ask him for money so that he can buy his own house and raise his own family, and Abe's being kind of nostalgic and sweet about the home, and he's like, I built this house with my own 2 hands. And Homer's like, no, you didn't.
You won it from a crooked game show in the 50s.
You won it from a crooked game show in the 50s. And Grandpa says, I ratted on everybody and got away scot-free. And he's like, I'd be happy to give you the $15,000. So he says he's going to sell the home, which I guess still makes sense continuity-wise, because we know in the father and son tonic episode, they go back to the home and burn it down on accident.
Yeah, and I guess it would still exist. They're just selling it, but
it means it basically got abandoned, I guess.
Well, I mean, if you looked in the background, you can kind of see why, though. You would think that you just clean that bitch up.
It's Grandpa. Maud's gone. Or not Maud. Oh my god. Mona Simpson. Mona Simpson's gone.
And men can't clean, so that's clearly
way to go, Miss Pac-Man, striking a blow for women's rights.
Right. There's kind of a sweet moment here, too, because Homer tells his father he would be honored if his dad would come and live with them in their new home, which, by the way, is fucking huge, so there would be plenty of room for him, right?
Yeah.
But back in the present time, we see Bart ask, so how long before you ship Grandpa off to the home?
About 3 weeks.
The worst part, though, is, dude, the whole family starts, laughing, really hard. It's so mean. It's funny, but it's so mean.
It's Grandpa. He's fine.
Nurses are taking his meds, and that thing in his neck keeps growing, but yeah, I'm sure it'll be okay.
Howdy-ho, neighborinos, this is Goobs.
And I'm Ripkin.
And we are the Wrestle Nerds.
And you're listening to the best darn diddly review show of The Simpsons with our friend Miles and the WizKid.
The radioactive man and Fall-Out Boy of the podcast world.
And if you love their show, maybe you should check us out. We're the Wrestle Nerds, and you can find us on YouTube,
Twitter, and Instagram at Wrestle Nerds.
We get what was clearly a commercial break here. When we come back, Homer is trying to convince Maggie to talk by bribing her with a cookie. Maggie points, and Homer's like, ooh, what's over there? Maggie grabs the cookie, eats it, and Homer is like, fine, you win round 7.
Which, if she's won 7 times, we can throw in Jedi power, magical power right there, forcing Homer to look the other way, like it is possible.
I would say on this one, it's just Homer is, that easily distracted, but it's
if it's happened
possible.
7 times, I mean...
It could be a magical Maggie. I'll give you I'm open to it. Lisa wants to hear the rest of the story of her first word, but Homer decides he'd rather tell a different story. That time he was stuck in a bank with Mr. Mooney. It was another of my harebrained schemes. Wait, that was the Lucy Show.
Which at first you're glad that he was just retelling a TV story because he was starting to sound a lot like Grandpa.
Yeah, true. A little bit of senility running in the family.
It was 19 Nantucket. We had to call it Nantucket because the Soviets stole the 40s or whatever it is. That meme that's been going around lately.
So Homer asks, where was he? Bart says, well, Mom was preggo, and you were throwing all of your money down the sinkhole.
That sounds very Bart appropriate.
So the Simpsons move into their new house, and the first thing out of Bart's mouth is,
Homer, this house sucks.
Yeah.
I told you, don't say that word. Call me Daddy.
Homer.
Why, you little...
And this is where we talked about earlier, we actually see Homer choking out his 2-year-old son. And then Flanders shows up, singing a song with his son Todd. We welcome you to the neighborhood, fa la la la. From now on, you'll be history.
You'll be hit, you'll be hit, you'll be history.
Buenos dias, neighborinos.
We're the Flanders. My friends call me Ned.
And of course, he says, if there's anything at all you need, just ask. To which Homer responds, I could use a new TV tray. Flanders had just bought one at the store and still had it in his arms. He tried to protest, but Homer says, you said anything. So he says, alright, I guess you could borrow it for a little while. And then we see 8 years later, Homer's still using that TV tray to this day.
I like it what I was referencing earlier where Ned says, my friends call me Ned, and Homer says, hello, Flanders.
Yeah. Also to note, another little 1983 joke here because...
TV trays, right?
Exactly. Flanders is wearing an I Love Webster t-shirt. Webster was a show starring Emmanuel Lewis that debuted on my birthday, actually, in 1983.
He means the day, not the year. It sounds like you're saying...
September 16th is my birthday. 1983 is the day that this show debuted. I was born 2 years later in 1985.
So Webster did it.
Exactly. We then see a little bit of what the Simpsons are going through, because while Marge is pregnant, Bart is going through his terrible twos. He's literally wearing a pot on his head and smacking it with a spatula and another pan, running through the hall screaming how great he is.
I am so great. I am so great. Everybody loves me. I am so great.
Homer starts talking about how it's not easy to juggle a pregnant wife and a wild 2-year-old, but somehow he still managed to squeeze 8 hours of TV in a day. And we see him watching an episode of Itchy and Scratchy spoofing the 1984 Olympics.
Man, I can't even get 8 hours of TV in a day.
Well, that's because you get 8 hours of video games in instead.
I don't even get that anymore unless it's Friday or Saturday.
We also see another allusion to the 84 Olympics because Krusty is sponsoring the event and running a promotion where each ticket you have represents an event. And if Americans win gold in that event, you win a free Krusty Burger.
How much is this going to cost us?
Well, it's rigged so that the tickets given out are only events that the communists commonly win. But unfortunately, the Soviet Union and East Germany boycotted the Olympics in real life in 1984. And this Krusty Burger promotion is actually a real-life parody of a promotion that McDonald's actually did and ended up losing millions of dollars on because almost every ticket they gave out was won by the United States.
It seems like they've bounced back somewhat.
I think they're still doing okay, but yeah, that was definitely a big blow. And Krusty is heartbroken when he finds out that this is personally going to cost him $44 million.
Did you catch the other odd thing about that scene?
Krusty almost swallowed some of his own burger juice and tried to puke it out?
No, it's that they handed him a news ticker and he read it. And we all know Krusty can't read.
Yeah, good point.
Which my guidebook actually backed me up on. I wrote a note down and then I read the stuff you may have missed. It actually said, like, Krusty reads something in 1984, but from Krusty Gets Busted, we know he can't read.
Fascinating.
It made me feel less smart. I thought I caught something that nobody else did.
But hey, at least you caught it before the book did. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Back at the Simpsons' home, Homer and Marge are trying to separate Bart from his crib, and they are not having any luck. Bart is holding on for dear life with the strength that only a toddler's grip can provide. They're literally pulling him back.
Damn small hands.
And Homer decides they should use some reverse psychology. So they say, fine, Bart, go ahead and keep your crib. And they walk away for about 3.5, 4 seconds before Homer starts sprinting back in, trying to tear Bart away again. He has absolutely no patience.
Don't you love the sound of Homer's feet, like going blum, 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 right back into the room?
Yeah. So Homer's got a solution. And it provides us one of the greatest Simpsons memes and one of the greatest lines in the Simpsons show when Homer tries to build Bart a clown bed that comes out absolutely fucking terrifying. And of course, we see Bart rocking and shaking. Can't sleep. The clown will eat me.
Can't sleep. Clown'll eat me. Can't sleep. Clown'll eat me. Which I just want to say, this bed is a piece of art. I would not personally buy it. But you know there's some art nerd out there that would have loved to buy this thing off Homer, which is kind of foreshadowing into his attempt at making a grill seasons down the line from here.
considering it's Homer, it actually looks pretty damn good overall. I mean, it's an actual bed for one, and it's in the shape of a rectangle, so that's a good start.
I just think somebody would buy at least like the clown part and hang it up on a wall somewhere to freak people out.
Well, now especially because it's an iconic piece of Simpsons history. But yeah, even back then is what you're saying. I get it.
Are you saying it'll be history?
A little fun fact from the director's commentary on this one. This whole clown bed story arc is a real-life story from Mike Reese's childhood when his dad tried to build him and his siblings clown beds, and they came out absolutely terrifying. Mike Reese actually said he doesn't get it. Kids hate clowns, and adults think they're stupid. Why do clowns exist?
That makes me like Mike Reese even more. Especially when something from his actual life they put into the show, and it's so iconic.
It's pretty cool that the story from his childhood became a big part of Simpsons history.
Absolutely, neighborino.
Homer is once again back at the house on the couch watching the Olympics, and it seems like every event he's winning another free Krusty Burger. To be fair, though, he's watching swimming, and they even note that all of the other competitors, since the East German, quote, women are 9,000 miles away shaving their back, that it was a pretty easy victory for the Americans, especially when most of the other countries don't even have swimming pools.
We are the Jamaican bobsled team.
I like how the commentary on the Olympics after they say that, he's like, oh yeah, my poor heart is breaking for them. And it's just so, the announcer is just so over the top sarcastic. It's great. But Marge interrupts Homer's 8 hours of television that day because it's time for them to go to the hospital.
Could this be the greatest day ever?
They drop Bart off at the Flanders home and they're off to the hospital. We see Bart hanging out with Rod and Todd, and when they're asked what they want to do for fun, they say, we want to play Good Samaritan, which looks like a really shitty Pop-O-Matic dice version of Candyland, based on the Bible.
We've got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart.
Where?
Down in my heart.
Where?
Down in my heart. And if the devil doesn't like it, he can sit on attack.
Ouch!
Sit on attack today.
Ouch! So, another fun fact from the commentary, I believe it was the writer, Mark Kirkland, if I'm not mistaken, or possibly Jeff Martin, I'm sorry, I can't remember which one. This was a song that he had to sing all the way back when he was a kid at Vacation Bible School, but he said, that's okay, at least that way he got something out of Vacation Bible School.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine being like the pastor that led that Bible school, and for some reason you're like, oh, I have X person that was in my sermon that is now on The Simpsons and a writer, and I want to get the commentary and see if they're mentioned at all. And then they're sitting there listening, and then that comes up, and you just see the guy go, oh.
You just get basically it's the Christian equivalent of the Native American crying at the littered trail.
Yeah. In a totally Simpsons fashion, I picture him just putting his head down and going, oh.
After the kids get done playing Good Samaritan, we hear Ned announce that they're going to be having liver for dinner. Rod and Todd are excited because liver gives them strength to play.
Iron helps us play.
Bart is like, I want to go home. But just then he looks through the window and he can actually see across into his own bedroom the evil clown staring back at him. So no, he doesn't.
Which that does match up for most of the episodes. When Bart tries to sneak out, I think a lot of times he sees Flanders and talks to him outside the window, so... Even in the movie, that happens a lot, so I like that. For now, the continuity speaks for itself.
Bart does finally have enough, actually, when they're singing that song we were just talking about, and he escapes into the night, but he runs into Grandma Flanders, who is absolutely off her rocker and terrifies Bart.
Hello, Joe!
We then see back at the hospital, Homer is actually holding his new daughter, baby Lisa, but Marge is reading that Fretful Mother magazine again, and she's concerned that Bart might be jealous. Homer replies, Bart can kiss my hairy yellow butt. Wow. When Homer and Marge bring Lisa home for the first time to meet her brother, Bart confronts Lisa and just says 3 words. I hate you.
Oh, so sweet. I like that when Bart was laying down to go to sleep at the Flanders house, he had that cycle of bad things going through his mind, where he sees, iron helps us play. Hello, Joe. And then he hears the clown laughing. And Marge going, from now on, the baby sleeps in the crib. And it just plays over and over in his head. So you kind of he already has that resentment before he's ever even met Lisa.
Yeah, you're right. And that's what's going on in his head right before they meet. So it's definitely affecting their relationship right off the bat. We see another little 1984 joke here when we flash back to the present time because Marge actually saved the newspaper for the day that Lisa was born. And on the cover, Mondale to Hart, where's the beef? Which was a reference to the 1984 Democratic primary when that where's the beef phrase was made famous in a 1984 Wendy's commercial, but then during the primary debates, Walter Mondale to Gary Hart actually said that. And I love it. Gets quite the reaction from Homer. He says, where's the beef? No wonder he won Wisconsin.
So specific.
Back in the 80s, everyone agrees that Lisa is a beautiful baby. Now when they go to visit their Aunt Patty and Selma, they could give 2 shits about Bart anymore. They just want to blow smoke in the baby's face.
Oh, look, she spit up.
Yeah, after Bart's trying to impress them by singing more songs, he actually messes up the songs and they just tell him to shut up. He already sang that part. Then they go back to being impressed with the baby vomiting on herself. They even say, kids, the older they get, the cuter they ain't.
So true.
I disagree entirely. My nephews were useless to me up until age 1.5 or so. They're just this ball of fucking meat and bones that you have to do everything for, and they're not even fun. Now, once that they're a little bit older and we can play, I love my nephews. They're the shit.
That's because you don't have to take care of them after you're done playing with them.
That's totally true. And I can teach them all these terrible things they can do in front of their parents when I'm not there.
Exactly.
Like bang on pots and pans, selling how great they are. Because they are the greatest, damn it.
Or how smart they are, SMRT. You mean SMART?
They are all SMRT.
Well, you are SAWT, with an F in there somewhere.
Everyone is absolutely loving the Olympic Games promotion at Krusty Burger because essentially the entire town is eating for free, but it's causing Krusty to actually have a full-on breakdown. He even declares on his own show he's personally going to spit in every 50th hamburger sold. Homer just keeps eating and says, I like those odds.
Which is appropriate if it's free, I mean.
Yeah, 1 in 50, honestly. You're probably more likely to get that at a fast food restaurant anyway.
Did we already get the shot of Dredrick Tatum winning his Olympic boxing fight?
Was that Tatum, though? Because, it was a black boxer, and I know they said it was, but my God, it didn't look anything like he had in the past or will in the future. He's much less Mike Tyson here than he normally is.
They're just trying to make him look different because it was 1984, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess they were maybe trying to make him look younger. But it was definitely Dredrick. You're totally right.
But Dredrick hasn't actually had, a speaking role really too much in the show yet, so maybe they just were toying with the image a little bit.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about how they're still, even though it's season 4 and everything's getting mostly established, Dredrick Tatum's a pretty obscure side character, even in the side character heavy world of The Simpsons. He's not somebody that we're going to see a whole ton. So definitely they could still be filling in the rest of the details on the character. I actually like your theory that it's because it's 1983 and he just looks a lot younger. I didn't actually think about that. That could have been a major factor.
84.
Yeah, same difference.
There's too many timelines to keep track of.
Is this the darkest timeline?
Is this Rick and Morty? Is this Lost?
The multiverse? Well, the kids go to see the doctor, and Lisa is healthy as can be. Dr. Hibbert gives her a lollipop, but when Bart asks for one, he's all out. But he's got something better. A rubella inoculation. Oh, there's actually another little Olympics reference here, because Hibbert actually says that Lisa has the reflexes of Mary Lou Retton, who, of course, is the gymnast that has the very famous imagery we've seen where she actually hurt herself and is being carried off after winning. I believe she won the gold medal even though she was injured, and then her coach had to carry her off while she was crying.
Yeah, she vaulted again and on a broken ankle or something, or a sprained ankle.
Absolutely amazing, yeah.
Crazy.
Just
Must be steroids,
incredible.
I'm just kidding.
They even do a little joke about that later when they talk about a gymnast hitting a perfect dismount with a broken leg. Bart is sick and tired of Lisa getting all of the attention, getting all of the love from their aunts, getting all of the lollipops from their doctor.
Oh, did we not need to mention that Dr. Hibbert was in full dread form?
They always like to put Dr. Hibbert into like these funky, like traditional African American styles of the day, and like they've done like giant afro, and this time he's got full on like cornrows and beads, I believe.
Yeah, Bart was only born 2 years earlier when he had the afro, so
right?
That's a pretty drastic change in a short amount of time.
Hey man, you gotta keep the look fresh.
Minty fresh.
At this point though, Bart has had enough with this new baby sister. He wants her gone. First, he decides he's going to take a stab at her cuteness with a pair of scissors by cutting off all of her hair. All it does is gets him some corner time.
Well, before that, I like the scene where, like you said, he was fed up with it, and Homer was like, "Here, Bart, you can hold my beer," and puts the beer can on top of his head.
Well, Bart wants to hold the baby, but he says he's told he's not old enough. But Homer's like, "But you can hold my beer."
Yeah, but I've always remembered that image because when you think about it, Bart's head is a perfectly flat, like, it's got the spikes all the way around the outside, but the middle is perfectly flat, so it could hold a beer, technically. And he's at the right height.
Especially if you have, like, the spiky hairdo, it's just, like, basically a flat top at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's when we go into Bart cutting off Lisa's hair. He actually says, "Who's cuter now?" But like I said, all it does is ends up putting him in timeout, sitting in a chair facing the corner. Next, we see Bart putting stamps all over Lisa's face and body. He actually shoves her in the mailbox. Next, we see Bart sitting in the corner once again, griping about how the stupid mailman ratted him out.
Oh, and then I love this one that comes after that when there's the knock at the door, and Homer opens it up, and it's Flanders going, "Heidi-ho, Simpson, your son shoved this through our doggy door." and he hands him Lisa.
"Hey, since we're giving you back your second born, think I could get that TV tray back?"
"Thanks, Flanders."
He just slams the door and says, "Thanks, Flanders."
So that your son shoved this through our doggy door.
Bart realizes he's not going to be able to get rid of his baby sister, so he's going to pack up and take off himself. He's in his room making a little makeshift knapsack, kind of like the tramp, like Charlie Chaplin does. He's using one of those little push toy bubble popper things and then a red handkerchief to pack up as much as he can carry over his shoulder. Just then, Lisa walks in his room, and he starts griping about how much he liked it better before she was there. He liked it when it was just him and Homer and Mom. But then, to our surprise, Lisa says her first word, hence the title of this episode. She actually belts out Bart.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
That would have been weird, right? But no,
Yeah.
she does in fact say Bart, and Bart gets really excited. He's really happy that he's her first word. He actually takes Lisa downstairs to show Homer and Marge explains that she's not surprised at all that Bart's her first word. Lisa absolutely loves you.
She adores him. That's honestly like a really sweet line. I don't know why. That line gets me like every time I see this episode.
She even says Lisa thinks you hung the moon, and yeah, it's a very moving moment, like very touching.
Yeah, and it's just obviously that's what Bart needs to hear in that moment.
And also this great little bonding moment between Bart and Lisa at a very young age, because Bart starts getting Lisa to say other things. Like, at first, like I said, it was Bart, and then Mommy, and then David Hasselhoff. But when Homer asks Lisa to say Daddy, she stutters for just a second, and then, of course, declares loud and proud, Homer! And they both start giggling.
Which makes sense. If she adores Bart, then she would associate that as Homer.
Absolutely.
You can totally sell that.
Unfortunately, we go from this really sweet moment where Bart and Lisa are hugging and laughing to present day where they're fighting over who gets to sit on that spot. Bart says, "That's my spot." Lisa says, "Your name's not on it." Bart says, "Yes, it is." And Marge says, "Bart, quit writing on the carpet."
And then this is one of the best endings to any episode of The Simpsons.
Honestly, I can't think of a better one off the top of my head. Right?
Do it for her. Do it for her might be
okay,
better, but
maybe
it's the same ballpark as this one with the same characters.
This is a very moving moment, and Homer takes Maggie upstairs away from all the chaos in the living room, and he says, "You know, Maggie, the sooner kids talk, the sooner kids talk back. I hope you never say a word." Homer leaves the room. Maggie's alone. She removes the pacifier from her mouth, and we hear one simple word. Daddy. And it's, honestly, I mean, like, your heart swells up when you hear it. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. I watched this episode twice, and then once with commentary, and each and every time they delivered that line, it just, like, it hits you right in the feels, as they say.
Yeah, the one thing Homer's always wanted his kids to call him, and he didn't even hear it when it happens.
It's both, yeah, it's perfect for the Simpsons world because it really only exists to us and Maggie, and none of the other Simpsons ever have to acknowledge it again because they weren't there, but it's still very sweet and touching.
Everyone else thinks Maggie's first word is sequel.
Something interesting about that first word, Richie. Did you know that they got a very special guest star to deliver that line?
The dead for 2,000 years, Lady Cleopatra?
It was none other than Elizabeth Taylor at the absolute height of prime of her career when she was one of the biggest stars in the entire world. In fact, they talked about doing the recording session for this, which, funny note on that, they actually ended up having to do about 20 takes because getting her to say daddy in a baby's voice kept coming out way too sexy for what they were going for.
Uh-oh.
While they are doing the recording, they actually shot it in an auditorium, and pretty much every Simpsons employee that was in the company at all, like interns all the way down, everybody and their friend were coming to see Elizabeth Taylor deliver this line, and in true Simpsons fashion, even though she was arguably one of the biggest stars on the planet at the time, she was super cool and easy to work with.
I just keep picturing her being like, Daddy.
The only thing that I think might have been more perfect is if they would have got James Earl Jones to do it, since he had previously voiced Maggie after all.
Yeah, but it's cool they had like that one little word thing in there. It's reminiscent of like Jay Leno doing the cat and George Clooney doing the dog, Sparky the dog on South Park, where like they literally just make animal noises, but it's actually them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Now that I say that, I think James Earl Jones isn't until a future Halloween of Horror or Treehouse of Horror episode. So I think I jumped the gun on that one anyway. He was in the Raven episode, but not as Maggie. It's the time travel episode where he voices Maggie.
Ah,
This is a dark timeline. Or dark universe, something like that. Anyway, that does bring us to the end of Lisa's first word. Richie, was there anything that you or that book of yours wanted to add?
well, there's a couple points we didn't touch on from the book that I have. The Simpsons: A Complete Guide to Our Favorite Family. It points out that the Itchy and Scratchy cartoon, which was called 100-Yard Gash, the music is from Chariots of Fire. So that was a movie moment there. And then they also pointed out, I didn't catch this in the episode, but the Krusty Burger is the official meat-flavored sandwich of the 1984 Olympics. So it's not actually meat, but it's meat-flavored.
Well, like I said, like, during the commercial shoot, I love when Krusty's like, "Oh my god, I accidentally swallowed some.
Yeah.
Some of the juice may have run down my mouth or run down my throat."
But just on top of that, this is going to be a tough season to pick a favorite episode for me. And I can usually sit down and do it within seconds. But just back-to-back, Mr. Plow and Lisa's first word, both are just like such great episodes. I mean, how many iconic moments have we had just in the last two reviews that we've done, especially from this one? There's so much from this that is still used and laughed about today. So it's just, I mean, it's incredible when you actually sit down and watch it and think, oh my god, this is iconic, and it's like, when are you guys not iconic? Slow down.
Stop being so iconic, damn it.
Stop impressing me so after 25 years.
Completely agree. I always have a hard time with my top 5 list. This season is probably going to kill me, quite literally. This could be our last season because this might be the end of me. But what's interesting about this episode to me is I don't think this is necessarily the funniest episode in the season at all. In fact, I would say in terms of humor, it doesn't have as many jokes as a lot of the other episodes do. But it brings so much more of the heart at the end that while And there's still plenty of humor is the thing. Like, it's a very funny episode. I just think it's not as funny as, say, Monorail or Mr. Plow, but it has far more heart than either of those episodes. So you get to a point where it's like, how do you compare these two? They're both so good, or they're all so good in this case. It's going to be very tough, but I love this episode. The ending, each and every time I've watched it, has just made me feel good inside, and walking away before the end credits just as a happier person, I think, is about as strong a compliment as I can give a show.
In this day and age, yeah. If you walk away happy from anything, it's a win.
So let's try to take a page out of the Simpsons book and leave them on a happy note, Rich. Let's get on out of here. What would you like to plug this week?
As always, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at theWiz_Kid23. Also, while you're on Twitter, go ahead and give our show a follow. That's Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY. And then go on over to YouTube and subscribe to Camp Crystal Crew, that's all C's, for some fun videos on there.
And you know what? Fuck my plugs this week. I need to say something that we don't say nearly enough, and that's just thank you so much for listening to this show. We appreciate each and every one of you. We love talking and interacting with you on Twitter and Instagram. And we just really appreciate that you guys tune in to listen to our dumbasses talk about this iconic classic show. And again, from the bottom of both of our hearts, thank you for tuning in to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. Richie and I will be back again next week to talk about Homer's triple bypass.
You know what I call the end of this episode and what you just said? Swish.
Until next time, be cromulent to each other.
Hey guys, it's Richie the WizKid here from the Best Darn Diddly Review Show, and I'm here to talk to you about PopThreads.com, your #1 source for finding awesome nerdy t-shirts. Are you sick from not knowing what to wear when you go out with all your friends on the weekends? Well, don't have a cow, man. Go to PopThreads.com, and if you use the code Simpsons at checkout, you can save 15% on all your t-shirt needs.